Good morning. I know it's early, ladies and gentlemen. It's 3:30 in the morning, New York City time. Just wanted to do my archaeology video. This video is different than the usual videos I do because what I'm going to show you now, I'm going to tell you about scientists stumble upon world's oldest forest. They find ancient trees just north of Manhattan. What is this courtesy of Newser.com? Earth's 3 trillion trees do a lot for us and make life possible, really. But how did they ever get started? Well, look no further than New York. Scientists say they found the world's oldest known forest in an abandoned quarry a couple hours north of Manhattan. The BBC reports dozens of 385 million year old trees left fossilized roots there, freezing a key moment in Earth's history. What I'm going to explain to you now is the find is very special. A team member tells Science.com newspaper, "You're walking through the roots of ancient trees, standing on the quarry surface. We can reconstruct the living forest around us in our imagination. Not only that, the find pushes back our tree timetable by 20 million years and reveals rich, complex root system like much like modern ones. Such trees also played a huge role in shaping our planet. The deep roots snaked into the soil, breaking up rocks, causing chemical reactions that sopped up CO2, which is carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, called weathering. The process helped cause CO2 levels to fall to modern levels, and by some research allowed oxygen levels to reach 35% by 300 million years ago, spawning the evolution of enormous insects, which are dangerous, some of them, which are not dangerous, some of them. The arrival of these forests was the creation of the modern world. Barry tells the Smithsonian, in modern times, Earth is going the other way, slashing forests and digging up ancient carbon to be burned for coal. That's sobering. What's happening today is the opposite of what happened millions of years ago, says lead author William Stein. So basically, the Earth, they found some of the oldest trees, oldest forests, the, the world's oldest forest, just north of Manhattan. What happens is north of Manhattan, they found some of the oldest trees from millions of years ago, and I can't believe they're still living. It's amazing how difficult and how easy in some places it is to find the world's oldest trees. Another thing I'm going to search for archaeology in New York City. What I'm going to look at is New York City unearthed 5 notable archaeological sites in Manhattan as of January 11, 2016, courtesy of untappedcities.com. New York City unearthed 5 notable archaeological sites in Manhattan. The first one I'm going to read about, 18th century ship hull underneath the World Trade Center. In 2010, during the reconstruction of the World Trade Center site, work came to a halt as a 32-foot long ship hull was uncovered about 30 feet underground. A A 2014 analysis of the wood suggests it was cut down in 1773 from a white oak forest near Philadelphia. It's an amazing discovery that happened in New York City. The ship is thought to be a Dutch vessel called Hudson River sloop, used to carry people and cargo. After decades of the ship was eventually retired, permanently docked, and eventually buried under garbage throughout the 1800s, only to reemerge after 9/11. Along with the hull, a few smaller items were uncovered, including some ceramic dishes, a leather shoe sole, and bones of an ancient horse or cow crushed by the ship sinking. So basically, the next one I'm going to read about, besides that ship, the African burial ground. They found, much like most archaeological sites found in New York City, the African burial ground was discovered in 1991 by construction workers located from Chambers Street to Duane Street and Broadway to Foley Square. The grounds lay rest over 400 African slaves who died over 200 years ago. Since it's not politically correct to call them blacks because it's the 2019 year, I can't call them blacks, but I can call them African Americans. What I'm going to read now, the 6.6 acre area provided well-preserved remains which were able to shed light on New York's significant slave population, unfortunately, of the 18th century. Unfortunately, some people were slaves then. According to an analysis done in 1998 by certain people of Howard University, the remains revealed harrowing injuries and traumas to the knees and broken necks due to the hard labor they endured to build the area as an active seaport. This is an area with a time when they didn't have construction materials, they had to build by hand, everything. More information on the mapping and location of the site can be found here, which is another link. On February 27, 2006, President George W. Bush, when he was president, through presidential proclamation, named the African burial ground as a national monument. Number 3, I'm going to tell you about burial vaults of Washington Square Park. The next thing, although Washington Square Park is known formerly to be a graveyard, which I don't think you previously know this, courtesy of untappedcities.com as well, 2 previously forgotten burial vaults were exposed this past fall in November during a water main project of the Department of Design and Construction. According to a New York Times article, the first vault previously opened 50 years ago was partially emptied of 25 skeletons and sealed once more. However, the second vault was found completely untouched and filled with about 24 coffins. 24 coffins. Some are labeled with names like William. Others were with just an age 18. The archaeologists working the site determined to be a family. Determined was a family. Despite the astonishing discovery, the remains were not taken out. Instead, they were left out of respect to the interred. The water main project was moved a few away, and with that, the vault was once again sealed off. The next thing, out of the 5 archaeological sites in Manhattan, Foley Square, 5 points. During the 19th century era, the era of the Foley Square, 5 Points, was an infamous slum. In 1991, the construction on a new courthouse at Foley Square revealed the rough life of poor Eastern European and Irish immigrants who occupied the area. Excavation done by John Milner Associates, Inc., provided nearly 850 artifacts from 14 historic properties, revealing the squalid, overcrowding living conditions of poor immigrants, which New York City right now is overcrowded and expensive. It's beyond me, which is besides the point. Despite the unsanitary conditions, the site showed residents did their best to offset their difficult conditions with set tables, imported ceramics for tea drinking, decent amounts of meat, multiple kinds of medicine, and apartment decorations. The excavation of this working class neighborhood further informed the tough lives of struggling immigrants to determined to create a better life for themselves while still maintaining their ethnic roots. Number 5, last and final, 18th century liquor bottles in Lower Manhattan. What was the next thing and the last thing, what they found, 18th century liquor bottles, artifacts uncovered at 50 Bowery in archaeological excavation. Lower Manhattan has been the site of much of New York City's colonial history. An interesting addition, though not surprising, is alcohol. An excavation of 50 Brewery by Alyssa Lorna of Chrysalis Archaeology, before the current hotel was constructed, yielded a treasure trove of bottles of other artifacts. Check many of them here. That's a link. This is also courtesy of untappedcities.com. Also in Lower Manhattan, the oldest surviving bar in the city today has to be the Bridge Cafe, existing since 1794. But these bottles go back a little further to taverns that no longer exist. In 2012, during a 4-month excavation project beneath the stretch between Fulton and Water Street, over 100 18th century liquor bottles were unearthed. According to somebody who also handled the excavation of the site, in the area which the bottles were found was a site of few taverns used to entertain passing sailors. Although no engraved names or labels are found on the bottles, Loria explains that they were probably reused and refilled multiple times with liquors or wine or rum. Over 200 years old, the findings of intact cork bottles and broken ones, and although the liquor has long since evaporated, the trove depicts the more bustling colonial Manhattan. So this video basically says that there were some archaeological sites unearthed in New York City. Now, when I'm done reading this, it is amazing that there were some archaeological discoveries in New York City unearthed, like the African American burial ground, the liquor bottles, Foley Square, and the 2 others I read about in my longest video ever. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel, Elliot Wittert, if you want to hear more coming up later in the week. Bye.